GBR goes wild.
Oh! The hell? Oh!
It's the one and only Steve Backshall.
Deadly at 50
And ready to rumble.
My dad was obsessed with rugby, and I'm now back at Marlow coaching my 3 little ones. It is amazing seeing how transformational it is for youngsters. Confidence is everything in the natural world.
You'd be awful. Yeah. You'd be like in a moose boots, wouldn't you? Just a little.
Rugby in the environment. Is that something the game should be considering far more than perhaps it is?
There are an awful lot of people who seem to exist purely to call out hypocrisy for their own ends. Don't say stop the flying, don't say stop the travel. Make sure that in doing it, you're realising the carbon that's being created and you meaningfully offset it.
Into the final moments, Alex Payne trying to keep this side going forward. Haskell takes it on now with just relentless chat, largely about himself. And there's Tyndall to add the finishing touch of glamour and World Cup winning stories. That is how you podcast.
Hello Dream Team, welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, proudly sponsored by our friends at Continental Tyres, our go-to for premium tyres at Continental. Safety, performance and grip are the name of the game, the complete opposite of this unpredictable show where we're never quite sure how the journey will unfold. So buckle up once again and enjoy the ride. And talking of the unpredictable, today GBR goes wild as we're joined by someone who's tackled more beasts than the two usuals have tackled opponents on the field. He's an adventurer, a naturalist, an all-round wildlife legend, and a big lover of our game as well, which is why it's such a privilege to have him with us today. It's the one and only Steve Backshall. How are you?
I'm very good. Hello, you all.
It's very nice to have you with us. We were just touching on the fact that you very kindly brought in a little number here.
Yeah, I take it with me
dirty.
everywhere. I just sneak it into the back of shot, no matter where we are.
Do you want to explain what this is, Hask?
Yeah,
even you have raised your eyes.
Well, well, first was absolute housewife's favourite, fighting the birds with a shitty stick. Obviously, he's happily married, but just keep him guessing, keep him on their toes. It was part of his rider. Steve was like, his agent said he will not come on unless you have at least one topless photo of him and some
I was expecting it on the big screen.
We can do that.
Sorry.
We can bring the video in. Was this anything in particular? So for the listeners, there is a picture of you looking ripped, cut and ready to rumble. Was this a men's health thing? Or
it is, yeah. So I did a front cover for Men's Fitness, Deadly at 50. So it was when I turned 50, I did the whole sort of shirt off. This is not something that I do of a weekend normally.
Oh, yeah.
How old are you? Because you look considerably better than this man who's 36.
51.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Is it because you feed off endangered species when no one's around? It's like a parrot in a blender. You're like, you go to a jungle, they're like, you see an indigenous species, and the guy, you're like, how old are you? And it turns out they're 80, but they look 25. What are you eating? Couple of bats, bit of parrot, something really endangered thing that you shouldn't put in, whiz it up, drink it once a day, boom.
Yeah, I mean, I had kept that a secret. Thanks for
This is where a sustained and very successful career comes wildly off the rails and very quickly.
Why is there a Steve-sized hole in the
Regrets got a few.
Steve works with animals and children, like his audiences, families. It's not something that we've ever.
No.
That's not our demographic here. We're not. I wouldn't describe us as family friendly. I mean, the last time.
Speak for yourself. I mean, one or two of us do a bit for the housewives.
You were a bit of a housewives folk. He didn't have men's health.
Yeah, I didn't look anything like that.
No,
sadly,
not rugged. It wasn't black and white and moody.
It was like a quite soft sausage, wasn't it? It was just mangled together and held together.
He's, in that photo before that, he'd filled in 3 poachers, saved an elephant single-handedly, reattached a rhino just by licking it and gluing it back down, and now he's done a thing. You were just a bit of a soft, weren't you?
Yeah, soft, but stick to it. How is life? What's keeping you busy? We're really pleased to have you on, and we've got so many things to talk about. But what are your headlines at the moment in life?
So I'm doing a couple of tours. So I do tours around the country talking about animals, usually to kids and families. I've got another one in Australia in January as well, which is good. Heading out when it's freezing cold here to an Australian summer is always a joy.
Also.
Very wise.
The Australians, they love their wildlife, and also all the kinds of wildlife that I talk about are all there. They've got the most venomous spider, snake, octopus, snail, the biggest shark, the biggest croc. They're all there, and so everyone is super invested. They know a lot about it, and it's just a great place to go.
I'm amazed that actually they've survived, because literally it's even in your back garden something can kill you.
Yeah. Everything wants to kill you in Australia, like basically everything. Like box jellyfish is there.
Everything could kill you.
Yes, that's what I mean.
But they very rarely want to. Almost nobody gets harmed by wildlife in Australia. It's a lot to do with the fact that everyone learns the rules. They learn how to live alongside. So if you're up in the Northern Territories, you go anywhere near a body of water where there could be a crocodile, and you act as if there's definitely one there. And just that simple mechanism is enough to make sure that people generally don't get hurt.
Yeah, but that faith in humanity for that level of like sensibility and cognitive awareness,
there are always stupid people.
Stupid everywhere. Imagine, I think if the UK had deadly stuff, people would just be dying all the time.
Yes.
So like, don't touch that. Oh, you jumped in the Thames, you're dead. They do that anyway now.
Yeah.
It's true. There's an interesting statistic about rattlesnake bites in America, and if you look at the stats, it proves that rattlesnakes will only bite men aged between 15 and 30 who've been drinking heavily.
Right.
So they.
So they
It's
know.
a real.
Yes, they
Whether
know.
that's the
They
animals or
absolutely
the-
know.
It's
Or the
just
people.
something they like. It's the flavour of blood. I don't know.
Well, just in terms of Australia, because one of the biggest things you ever see on internet-wise and content-wise is like 10. Like, I would even get caught up. Like, if I'm watching YouTube, watching a DJ set, and someone goes like 10 deadliest snakes, 10 most dangerous spiders, the world's biggest spider. I end up going down rabbit holes. Like, do you see that big snake that they dug out of? They found it in a hole, and there's a digger holding it, and it's like.
Yeah, that's mildly photoshopped.
Is it? But
is.
I thought it was one. I thought it was one of.
You fall into that old trap.
did,
again.
and there was a
Hashtag
spider
fake
beside
news.
the
Probably
Jeep.
was big. Probably was big anyway.
No, it was quite
but-
big, yeah, but it was quite big, yeah. But I sort of get obsessed with those. In Australia, what would your top 3 things be to worry about? Like, would you ever do you check under the seat when you go for a piss? Are you that paranoid?
Yeah, no, you absolutely would. I mean, there are spiders there that even if they wouldn't kill you, would give you enough of a problem that you could well be in hospital for a while. You might have to take lots of antivenin, which itself can be toxic. So you have to modify your behaviour, but you don't have to do a huge amount. Certainly not if you're in a big, a big urban centre.
Yeah.
It's
Because
not a
noise
huge issue.
generally will push most
Yeah.
of them away from you anyway.
Well, the way you shit as well, terrifying, isn't it?
Because that's what they always say. They say that in the jungle, isn't it? Because even if you go in, I'm a celebrity or whatever, you go in there, they're making so much noise. They're like, nothing's going to be around really, because they're not stupid. They don't like noisy places.
And
They
when
like
we
being
did,
on their
on
own.
my ear, we did have one where I was sitting down and I turned to my left and there was a spot. Like, I know that huntsman, but this thing, honestly, if it stayed in longer, it was charging rent. It was basically a star of its own show. I couldn't believe it. It was like the size of a fucking cat, and was sitting next to me. And I'm not a big fan of spiders. Like, if you had one. And we were doing. Do you got a spider with you? You look like a man who's got like a bolt. It's
funny you should say that.
And when you've got like a utility bolt, like here we are. I've got a snake here. I've got a turtle. Obviously,
Dodo, couple of
dodo.
those,
Yeah. No, but I would. If you said hold it, I'd do it because you're a tough, more rugged, tough man. I wouldn't want to let myself down. But if I was sitting at home and like just a normal wolf spider got on me, I'd shit my pants. But over there, this thing was so big that I was like going talking to the cameras, like, can anyone help? And this big rugged like SAS man like came over, didn't talk to me, like just caught it, took it away. And I was like, my hero, and he was really good looking, and I'd been in the camp quite a while. I started to eye him up. But yeah, is there anything you wouldn't want to touch?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly things that. So some of the super venomous spiders, like the Sydney funnel web or the Brazilian wandering spider, I would not take those onto my hand because even though they probably wouldn't bite me, if they did, it would be bad.
Right, okay.
Define
Whereas-
bad.
So the Brazilian wandering spider is well known for having a constituent to its venom that in men, at least, causes endless and incredibly painful priapisms.
Right.
Erections, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, which can then result in
How do I know
total loss of
Anything
sexual
about
function.
erections, you get a bit mad. Anything that could possibly get it up if
Go on,
it's not
Steve.
working.
Talk my language, Steve. Yeah, go on. Yeah. Have you got one of them spiders around you, or can I borrow one?
I actually got its venom here.
The flip side of it is that once that's finished, that's it. You're done, and it's
Never gets up again.
Never again. Yeah.
Wow. God, Hask, that might be the solution to all your problems,
My
actually.
mate's wife would quite like that. Come back to the house is full of spiders.
Society will be happy.
Yeah, true.
Oh God! Oh really? Okay, but I tell you what, it's one of the things. Again, I know we were flitting around it, but I'm very interested. There was something because again, I got caught up watching all those kind of nature programs, and I'm obsessed with David Attenborough and all these kind of these shows, and obviously or yourself. There was someone that I don't know if it was a scorpion or a snake or a spider that basically bit you, but it caused necrosis in the tissue. Looked quite bad. Even if you got kind of. You'd get a bite, it would sort of start to eat your flesh away.
Yeah, that's
so
a snake, isn't it? What's it called? You tell me.
Yeah. Ask the expert, yeah.
There are certain kinds of venom that will do exactly that. So
right.
necrotic, cytotoxic venoms will break down the cells and start rotting them.
Yes.
And classically, things like the brown recluse spider is something that will do that. There's several kinds of snake that have necrotic elements to their venoms. But a lot of the time, if you see really, really bad cell death from a wound from a venomous bite, that is a secondary infection. So that's just that an infection's got into the wound and started, creating an ulcerating wound around it. But yeah, things like the brown recluse spider, which is only small, doesn't look much different to our own spiders here. They have a highly necrotic venom, which can result
the
in
worst.
big
They look
ulcerous wounds.
Can I ask you, almost to sort of wind back to the start? I mean, we've got, as I said, lots
Something
to talk
about rugby, would it be?
We could do. Yeah.
It's not that boring.
Just get a quote. Do you like rugby?
Yes,
you are right. Could
Let's
you
move on.
fight an alligator?
But it's really interesting because you said Mia's absolutely obsessed with sort of nature,
she's
and
got
that's
bearded
where she
dragon
wants to
and she
go.
loves it, yeah.
And my daughter's
funny thing to
exactly
call
the
your
same. You're fast approaching, and please take this as a comment, but you're fast approaching sort of national treasure status now because of
bless
what
you for
you've
saying
done.
so.
But where did it begin? How did you get into what you're doing? And when you started, could you ever have foreseen that you would end up where you are now?
God, no. No, I mean, I'm very lucky in that my parents are both really into the outdoors, nature and animals, and we grew up on a small holding as kids. And, they tell tales of me going through the compost heap looking for snake's eggs when I was knee-high before I could even really crawl. And what's really interesting is that I've got 3 young kids now, and 2 of them, the twins, they go along with it because they can see that daddy's into it and they're interested in it. And my oldest, the boy, is exactly the same as I was. He is just drawn to anything that crawls or wriggles and has anything vaguely to do with wildlife. And he just is instantly calmed by it, absorbed by it, fascinated by it. He would sit with a snake in his hand for an hour doing nothing other than holding it.
So, but how did you sort of take that genuine interest and turn it into what you did? I mean, were you good at school? Did you kind of study hard to get where you got to? Or was it just a passion that has unfolded for you?
No, I mean, I got a little bit lost at school, really. School was something where I went to a comprehensive school where, to be popular, you had to be good at basketball and football and fighting, and I kind of wasn't good at any of those things. And, what I liked doing was wandering out in the woods looking for butterflies and birds' eggs, and there is just no way that I could ever have told anyone that, because I'd have ended up head first down in a dustbin. So I kind of hid that whole element of myself and my passions until I was kind of in my late teens, I guess. And then I started working for the National Geographic. I made my own series, sold it to them, and they took me on as their adventurer in residence, and that was back in like 1998, 99.
You made your own
So
series?
it's quite a good
How did you
title,
do
isn't
that?
it? What are you?
It is a great title.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had business cards made up saying Steve
of course you
Backshall,
did.
adventurer in residence.
With a picture of your shirt off on it. What did you? So how did you make
That was the last day he wore a shirt, 1997.
How did you? Who was your inspiration for doing it? Like, because did you look at someone and go, "I want to be like that," or "This is how I'm going to make it," or did you go? What was the kind of idea behind the series?
I was working as a writer at the time, which I thought was what I wanted to do with my life, and it was the pay was abominable. I ended up having to go back and live with my family, and then I thought, well, telly's where the money's at. And so I got myself a video camera. I went out to Colombia, which at the time was like the most wild, windswept, frightening place I could think of. I was intending being with a friend who was going to film me catching snakes and spiders and scorpions, but he got really sick on about day 2. So I ended up on my own and filming the whole thing selfie style, like pointing it at myself before that was kind of a thing.
Quite pioneering.
Yeah. And I put it all together into a program, sold it to National Geographic, and been doing it ever since.
So you were just running around the Colombian rainforest, filming yourself, just grabbing.
Came back really wealthy.
Yeah.
What else did you find in the Colombian rainforest?
Yeah, any good TV starts off that. Where did your knowledge base come to? Did you study all these animals? Like, how did you know what you were picking up? Because obviously there's such a diversity. Did you have to like have a little big Encyclopedia Britannica next to you? I've got yoink. I've got shit. That's deadly. Right, that's a mistake.
I'm feeling
made
that there was some
mistakes.
planning going into this, James.
There was planning, and I mean, I'd always been obsessive about it, and about particular kinds of wildlife had been my passion my whole life, and so I did have a certain amount of knowledge. But yeah, I mean, I have made so many mistakes over the years, and things that I've picked up that I've thought, that's just a harmless colubrid snake, and then you kind of like look at the teeth and go, oh no, it's not actually, and these are all learning experiences that make sure the next time you do it, you're a little bit more careful.
Yeah.
What was your specialties though? What was the thing, the areas that you were really passionate about?
So my academic studies are in herpetology. So in reptiles, amphibians, I described the first ever venomous salamander or newt, which is a pretty dubious kind of accolade to have. But so venoms, toxins, and then newts, salamanders, frogs, snakes, lizards, and now more, I guess, in the last 10 years, more marine biology. So I'm much more into my diving and free diving and whales and sharks and that sort of stuff.
Can you tell my daughter that just because it's more entertaining to watch a bearded dragon eat a cricket, it does need to have fruit and veg?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a surprising diversity of diet in the wild, and the more you can replicate that, the better. And I mean, a lot of, keepers will like dust the bugs with special kinds of protein powder and amino acids and things to fill in the areas of their diet that they're missing from the wild and stuff like that. And I'm going to give you a complex
I love Speedy,
now.
but I'm not sure I'm going to do that.
What are you doing, Tins? Just dusting this with a bit of protein back.
What is really interesting about this, particularly watching these two, is that we get lots of rugby players on and you roll your eyes. We're suddenly like totally... There is something about what you do and the way that you do it that everybody gets very bought into it. So one of the sort of obvious questions is the moment or moments or trips that you've had where you have thought, holy, this is out of control here, or I'm in a situation I would rather not be. Can you put a finger on one or two of those?
Yeah, I mean, it's very rarely actually with animals. So, it's a massive cliche, but people...
We're back in the Clement jungle again.
Yeah.
Guys, with big guns.
People are genuinely so much more frightening and so much more unpredictable than animals could ever be. So, throughout my whole career, I don't think I've ever really had a frightening moment with a snake or a spider or a scorpion. They're things that tend to be predictable, things that once you get a bit of a sense of how they're going to work, then you're kind of okay with them. But there are very rare occurrences where the big, intelligent, predominantly mammals, can give you a real run for your money. And they're bigger than you, faster than you, much, much stronger than you. So things like elephants, hippos are the real nasty one. And then very occasionally things like crocs and polar bears, animals that will, on occasion, deliberately stalk, hunt, kill, eat a human being, are things that, yes, I've had moments in the past where we've tossed a coin as to whether we lived or died, and we luckily got away with it.
Have you ever realised that something is hunting you and you have to try and figure out that you need to get out of there ASAP?
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that.
A couple of times. So polar bears are this animal that will investigate anything that could be potential food in its environment. They can smell food from as much as 20 miles away. Wow. So if you're around and you're camping on the Arctic tundra or you're out on the ice floes and a polar bear is anywhere nearby, they will find you and they will, do anything they can to stalk you. And, it sounds obvious, but white in a white environment is pretty effective.
Do they ever just go like this and you can't see them? Yeah. Have you ever been standing there, just cover it, and there's a black nose, and you're like that? I was here, and you're like, fuck, it's behind me! If they ever learned to do that, it'd be really clever. Diddy. Shit, we've lost him. We found him.
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes, yeah. But when they say stalk you, you literally just start coming over.
And they can literally just crop up right behind you. You have an animal that can be 3/4 of a ton and can stand up 12 feet in the air, but is able to just all of a sudden from nowhere be there right in front of you because they are so efficient at, most of the time they're creeping up on seals or beluga whales or narwhal, things that are super sensitive and really aware of everything else in their environment. So they have evolved over tens of thousands, possibly millions of years to be able to approach a prey animal with absolute silence and you're not noticing it's there. And a couple of times, one, I was out in a kayak in the middle of these ice floes in Svalbard up in the Arctic, and I was paddling on my own. I was about a mile away from the ship that had a big long lens focused on me. We were getting these gorgeous compressed shots of me paddling through the icebergs, and someone said, "Stick, there is a polar bear swimming straight towards you." And I was on the radio, and the guys on the boat were talking to me. They're going, it's heading straight for you. And I couldn't see anything until it was probably 10, 15 meters away from me. And it just popped up in front of me, came around behind me, and then just came after me, swimming like this. And for about 5 or 10 meters, until I'd properly propelled myself off into the distance, I was about to become polar bear lunch in the middle of the Arctic. I have never felt so small and vulnerable and fragile in my entire life.
And the adrenaline rush off the back of getting away?
Yeah, I mean, I've never paddled faster. If it was possible to break the Olympic kayaking record in that second, I probably did.
If they could measure that piece of water that I pedalled down, I reckon I'd be up there.
Yeah.
I know because with bears, is it supposed to make yourself as big as possible, or no, or because you don't, or does it lie down and pretend you're dead? Or
yeah, so it depends on the kind of bear. That's a really interesting one.
Man, you got the wrong one. I know. Come on, then you prick. Oh, fuck, it's the wrong one. Because people don't know how good. Sorry to interrupt. I'm right in thinking because people always forget. There's a big disconnect between what people who watch animals, because they watch cartoons, like things like Wind in the Willows, right? Everyone thinks like a badger. Badger's like a really friendly, lovely chap that makes marmalade in a hole with a rat, and they've got a friend as a toad, and it's really kind.
I think if anyone's living their life according to Wind in the Willows, there's a little bit of work to be done. Sorry, there's a toad in a car. Never seen that before.
One of your relatives, actually. But that beliefs, because cartoons make animals seem very fun and friendly and accessible. I just wondered, I don't know where I was going with it, but essentially, how many times do you have to sort of...
Have you fought a bear and won? I'm trying to help you out here, but I've got no idea what you're asking.
I was trying to ask.
Which is the original thing you were about to ask was about if you were to get into a situation with a bear, what should you do?
Yes.
And the advice...
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much indeed. For asking a question Hask couldn't find.
So in the far north of America, you've got the black bear, the brown bear or grizzly, and the polar bear, and the advice for all three of them is different. So should you get into a bad situation with a brown bear, a grizzly, you are supposed to lie down, to play dead, and they'll mess around with you a bit and then leave you alone. If you get into a situation with a black bear, you fight back, because they are not going to just leave you alone. They'll carry on going, but they may be put off by someone really sticking up for themselves. With a polar bear, unless you've got a skidoo or somewhere out of there, you have zero chance. You would be shredded, and you'd be history. So the three different bear species, and it's a lot down to how they find their food, the kind of way that they live their lives is how you should react to them. Yeah. But generally speaking, that thing of standing up, looking as big as you can, being confident. Confidence is everything in the natural world. Size and your ability to just portray your own physical confidence is one of the biggest weapons you can have in your armory when you're dealing with any kind of animal. And that is absolutely true for people who are in this country working with horses or with dogs. It's the same thing. Confidence is everything. The person who is scared and frightened is the person who's going to get kicked or bitten.
You'd be awful.
Yeah.
You say that. I think you underestimate
as a Delta male, you'd be terrible in those moments. They'd smell you coming a mile off.
Yeah, but there's not a lot to eat, so they'd get bored very quickly, wouldn't they?
Like a toothpick. You'd be like an amuse-bouche, wouldn't you? Just a little...
This is the worst nature show you've ever done, ever. And I can only apologise for that.
No, it's great. It's nature versus actually what is the internet.
Ignorance meets right here.
One part of all of that, sorry, Alex, is that the defining feature of any apex predator, and it doesn't matter what it is that they will look for weakness if they can. That is the thing they are absolutely programmed to do. It's one of the reasons why if you go on an African safari to somewhere that's got Big Five, they won't let you take small children, because the animals may be completely used to having vehicles around all the time, never show them any aggression, but the sound of a baby is going to trigger them and they will change. They will absolutely change. You see people who have a few too many drinks at wandering past the wolf enclosure at the zoo, and all of a sudden the wolves are like triggered and they are sensing that something is a sign of weakness that they can key into. And it's one of the reasons why the big thing with working with animals is all about confidence, and you never have any weakness on show, because the second you do, your potential prey, and it switches the behaviour of the animal, even if it's been living with humans around it for its entire life.
I was going to ask, sorry, where I was trying to go with that question. Yeah. No, I was trying to go with the question before, was how many times have you had to kind of step in and dispel people's beliefs about animals, going because their preconception was it's going to be fine, they'll be all right, and actually you've had to go, no, we can't do that, this isn't right, I'm not getting that fucking close to it, you must be mad.
So then one of the big things that right from the start on Deadly 60, which we started in 2007, one of the big things that I wanted to do was to try and get rid of people's misconceptions about animals. I wanted people to learn to love animals, not to be frightened of them. So yes, we've always dealt with sharks and snakes and scorpions and crocodiles, but the vast majority of the time it's in a way of saying this animal will do anything to get away from you if it can. This animal is not going to go for a confrontation with you if it can avoid it. And trying to bring across the more exciting elements of that animal's biology, if at all possible. The only exception to that rule in all that time has been the hippo. The hippo is the one animal I think people have got wrong the other way. So people look at hippos and think of them as being, cute, cuddly, amiable animals, and they are not. They are walking on the bottom psychopaths. They are, three. Well, that is just never going to be a hashtag, is it?
I think that's a great hashtag.
Walking on the bottom psychopaths.
I think that's a brilliant hashtag. I mean, it sums it up pretty. And again, you see the stuff online of hippos getting angry, and you don't want to get in the way.
No. So you've got an animal that could be 3 tons in weight, that is as fast as an Olympic sprinter, that is intelligent, that is social, very protective of other members of its pod, particularly if they've got youngsters. The males are intensely territorial and they're unpredictable. So whereas with most animals, once you get with experience, you know what they're going to do. You never know what a hippo's going to do. They're living in sort of murky water where they could be 1 minute 40, 50 metres away from you looking completely playful. And the next minute, they could be right next to you, ready to tear you to shreds. And on the last series, I've been saying for years and years and years that hippos are, what I just said, as fast as an Olympic sprinter. Never really believed it. But then we saw one in full flight at night in Zambia on the last series. And 30 miles an hour, no doubt, through kind of thigh-deep water. If one was genuinely after you, game over.
Do they actually swim or do they run across the bottom?
Well, that's why I said it, because I was going to say swimming psychopaths, and then I stopped myself because that is factually inaccurate.
They don't swim, do they?
Don't.
They
No,
run
that's
across the
absolutely
floor.
it.
Is that right?
Underneath the water, yeah.
Yeah. We got
What
some
did you call it? What's the hashtag running on the bottom
Running
psychopaths?
on the
Yeah,
bottom
running on the bottom
psychopaths.
psychopaths.
It sounds worse every time we say it.
I like it. I like it.
You were about to say you got some amazing footage.
Yeah, so we got some fabulous drone footage of looking down on them from above, good kind of 100 metres up, and you look at hippos in water that might be 5 metres deep, 6 metres deep, and they're coming down to the bottom and bouncing up and coming up and breathing and then just dropping down again, then bouncing up to the bottom. And the youngsters that can't do that yet will stand on their parents' backs. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen. And we even saw something I've never seen before, and you only get it because you're looking straight down on it, hippos rolling over in the water onto their backs and kind of doing this with their feet up in the air.
Backstroke.
Yeah, exactly.
How extraordinary. Now for a message brought to you by American Express. We all know how tricky it can be to find the right work-life balance.
Amex understands that it's essential to work hard and play hard, so we wanted to share a bit about the American Express business cards. With an Amex business card, you can earn points on your business transactions and then use those points to switch off and enjoy some downtime.
For instance, you can earn points on everyday office purchases like furniture, a new laptop, or even your team days out, and then use those points to help you unwind and recharge.
Whether it's a brand new set of DJ decks for Hask or some shiny new golf clubs for Tins, or even booking that once-in-a-lifetime trip to watch the Lions on tour in Australia, the Amex business cards help you achieve that perfect balance in life. For more information, search Amex Business Card. Terms and annual fees apply. 18 plus, subject to status. You have mentioned a couple of times Olympians, which leads us very nicely onto your extremely decorated wife, Helen Glover, MBE. Professional rower, a 2-time Olympic champion. You've got quite an extreme job. She's got quite an extreme job. How do you marry the two of those necessarily? Which one of you worries about the other more?
I don't know, really. A lot of people sort of say, what does your wife think going and doing these things? I'm like, Helen could not care less.
Right.
I mean, the only way she'd ever care less is that she would
then.
quite like to do it herself. So there might be things that she would, rather be doing rather than me. But, she's certainly not, concerned about me doing what I do. I think I'm more invested in what she does. So I would say the most painful and stressful thing that I ever do is watching Helen compete. It's a situation where everything is reliant on one 6-minute race. 2 years, 3 years worth of effort is down to a 6-minute race that's happening in front of me, and I can have absolutely no impact over it. And that powerlessness is, I hate it. I just hate it with a passion. So yeah, I would say that we have an uneven relationship, but it's mostly in that I, am just so invested in what she does.
And it's been very interesting working with these two for a number of years about the mindset of that sort of elite athlete. How do you find that on a day-to-day basis?
I honestly thought, I'm a reasonably fit person. I've always been relatively good at sport. I've always kind of thought in the back of my head, the only reason I wasn't a professional athlete was I just, I didn't choose the right sport at the right age, or I didn't get the right coaching or something.
Politics.
Politics, face didn't fit.
And then I met Helen, and I realised that no, I mean, she is wired completely differently.
But she's particularly different though, like in terms of her
rowers
mindset.
Are, aren't they?
Yeah, rowers are, but her in particular, the amount of time she's retired, come back, gone again and again after kids, again. I'll just do it one more time again. It's like pretty mad.
You imagine anything worse than in COVID just staring at a washing machine whilst you're on an ergo 2 concert rower.
Is that a discussion with your wife when she's like, I'm going again, or is she says I am and you go, yep, great, I'm here alongside?
I see it as incredibly important that I support her in everything she does. I think that what she is doing now is clearly really, really important for women in sport and for women in general. You know, the responses that she gets from a lot of mothers who are seeing her coming back and excelling after having 3 kids, and people see that as a really important thing. It certainly has definitively changed the way that British rowing work with potential mothers. You know, I mean, the way that she was received when she came back after Tokyo was an abomination. And now, you know, they're actively encouraging the athletes to go out and to think about having a family, to think about something more than just the sport, because if they've got the ability and the talent and the mindset, then they can absolutely come back. So I think that what she's doing is really important, and I want to support her absolutely in that. Doesn't make it any easier. You know, it is a, I think, I know that you guys always trained incredibly hard. I think that the training for rowing has the added element of just boredom and time. You know, 6 hours of brutal training every single day, no days off. I mean, I don't know how they do it.
But that's why I was interested about that. And when I've interviewed some rowers and spoken to people, like what we know about sports science now, I would love to be able to study and go, do you actually need to do that? You know, I know how fit they are, and I know they're trying to get the time down. But when you know what you know about rowing, when you see it and you see how intensely they train for those period of time, you're like, I just in my mind, I can't work out if that's the right thing to be doing. Because for me, you'd be like, I know you've got to peak in certain times, but there's got to be a tipping point between exhaustion, how much progress you're actually going to make. Does it make a bit of a difference if you had more days off and had a bit more of a life and you didn't train as intensely? Because again, we did a show a few weeks ago about talking about rugby, and kind of one of the big things about rugby is we've always done it, so it must be right, so let's keep doing it. Rowing for me has a bit of that feeling.
No, it definitely traditional sport, tradition through the ages definitely falls into that. This is how we've always done it.
I've always felt the same, because you know their volume of training, particularly over the winter, is insane. You know, they'll go out and they'll do a 24-kilometre row. They'll go out and they'll do another 20.
Considering none of their races are longer than
and the races are
2 kilometres apart from the.
But at the same time, while you're absolutely right that it is a sport that's always been done that way, it's also one of the most means-tested sports out there as well. So you've got to kind of figure that these coaches who are coming back with golds over and over again sort of must know what they're doing. And they're talking about laying down this phenomenal, completely impossible aerobic base so that when it comes to that, you know, last 200 metres of a race, they are just not generating the lactic acid that you and I would do. So no, I mean, I've never bought it. The sheer volume of training just seems like punishment to me.
And it's just a hurt locker. It's the worst machine ever.
No, it is. And there's no escape. Your feet are strapped in.
There's literally nowhere to go.
I was going to ask, in my mind, I just made a complete caricature in my head of like, what's it like in your house? So on her side, it's like immaculate. There's like rowing machines, like protein shakes.
Oh my God,
on your side,
be more
there's like jars. You come running into the garden.
Because you got the arse going to the
I can imagine it's just like, you just, on your side it's perfect. On your side there's like shelves, just shit in jars and stuff. Like you just come running in with like a handful of newts. Your kids, your eldest kid there's got a box of frogs, you throw it on the side, everything's going everywhere, you just run out again. Is that kind of thing?
Down the middle.
There's like a chicken walking around, you're like, she comes and goes, Steve, for fuck's sake, there's an elephant in the bedroom again. You're like, you know, is it anything like that?
Steve's like, yes there is.
There's an anaconda as well. Is it not like that?
I mean, there's
wildlife and shit everywhere.
No doubt that my kind of element of the house is loads of fossils and bits of animal and actual animals and, you know, piles and piles of expedition kit, but it's all super neatly arranged in you know, perfect sort of storage units and everything. Helen is an absolute shambles. I have never met anyone messier in my entire life. And when it comes to rowing, she is able to hit that absolute perfect precise schedule. Everything else in life, she's hopeless.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing. Does she have the same passion for animals, like, or does she like, oh, for Christ's sake, the spiders everywhere, you know I hate spiders, or is she quite calm about it? Like, how does that work?
No, she's really, really good with animals. And I think that one of the things that I would love to do if and when she does decide to retire, is to start doing some of these things as a family, for us all to go out as a unit and start, you know, doing big projects together, expeditions even together with the family, because, you know, she'd be amazing at it.
Because I wonder, sorry, I'm just interested, because with kind of picking up on adults' neuroses over certain things, and I've noticed it with, I don't like lots of bugs and stuff, I'm not massively comfortable with it. I would, as I said, push come to shove, I would, but with Bodhi, I don't want her to ever my young daughter ever see that, so I don't want her to be scared of things. And it's interesting because a nan is very first world problem, but every time there's flies, Bodhi now goes to shoo, fly, shoo, and like won't come near things. Like there was a slug in the garden. I said, "There's a slug." I was like, "Touch the slug." I was like, picked up the slug, and she won't go near it. But that's not got from me. And I just wondered whether if she didn't like certain things, you'd have to hide it and go, listen, I'm trying to make the kids make their own minds up. Do you ever have that with anything? Or, they pick up sort of fears and you're like, Dad's covered in fire ants and, got a frog in his pocket.
It's a really good point. I used to, when I first started out in my career, I used to do as a sideline animal introduction. So I'd have just a house full of every kind of imaginable bug, lizard, snake, and I would go to schools and scout groups and I'd take along all the animals and the kids would get to hold them, and that would be a big thing. And what I noticed was that from a very, very young age, you could bring out the biggest, fattest tarantula in the world and all of the kids would be like, oh, amazing, unless the teacher was kind of, oh no, I don't like spiders. If they were, then instantly a third of the class pick up on that and they take that exact same phobic reaction, which they don't tend to have naturally. And so I think it is incredibly important that exactly what you say, that we try and make sure that we don't give those fears to our youngsters, because even if they're never going to go to the jungle or Australia, that is something that takes away their power. The second they see a spider, they're frightened. How does that help them out?
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we maintain those positive reactions towards all animals.
You get your missus to pick up any bugs and spiders in the house, don't you?
What?
Mia doesn't have any of those issues.
No, Mia's in with the bearded dragon on an hourly basis.
But Bodhi came running because she had an ant up her, was screaming as if like her arm had fallen off, and I couldn't understand what she said, pointing. It's an ant.
Yeah.
I was like, where have you got that from? Like, I don't know why she's scared. I'm trying to get her into all sorts, but again, I have to really go, I'll sort it out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Big words.
It's like, can I have a bath with Speedy, the bearded dragon? I was like, well, no.
Yeah, doesn't have bubbles.
I'm not sure, you could do, but what happens if it takes a dump in the bath? Then you just shit it.
But it also would kill it, wouldn't it? It would like boil it, it'd be broiling it.
No,
like
they quite like a bath.
Do they?
Hot.
Yeah.
Steve,
you really don't give anything away from people who starting it in the dark.
Tins is trying really hard.
Can I dry the hamster in the microwave? Steve? No, that's a big no.
Wasn't there a story? Didn't you not meet Hask on the same day that you met Helen?
Yes, I did.
That up, or not?
It was in 2013. It was at Sport Relief, and
You're saying I had a chance with Helen? I fucked it up.
Steve.
Either one will do.
well, this is my memory. I might have made this up, but I remember that you had done the Sport Relief mile, three-legged, tied to Louis Spence, the dancer. And also in my head, you
that wasn't Louis' choice.
Another high point.
So you were wearing his shirt, you were like in teeny tiny red shirt, and he was wearing what essentially looked like a giant red dress.
Another high point in your career.
Yeah. When I see these things, and people remind you of stuff you've done, you're just a bit like, oh my God.
Just right. All for charity, though.
And I do a lot of work for charity. I don't like to bang on about it. But thank you, Steve, for reminding the audience what a kind-hearted man I am. Yeah. Tied to Louis Spence in a three-legged race wearing his top.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I do know
and
that.
the reason I remember it so well is because not long after I met you, I met Helen in the green room at Sport Relief.
And that went slightly better, which we're all
considerably
very happy
better.
about. Tell me about as a bit of a segue, tell me about your interest in rugby. You played a bit, you watch it, you've got mates in the game, you're a big advocate. Where's that come from?
It's been absolutely constant presence throughout my life ever since I was a kid. My dad was obsessed with rugby, and he played for Wasps as a junior, set up a small club called St Nicholas Old Boys in London, which I think is still going now. And so, from about 6 years of age, I was down at the Minis at Camberley in Surrey, and it's been a huge part of my life. I carried on playing all the way through to my mid-30s when I had a rock climbing accident that kind of took me out of games.
What happened there?
I broke my back in two places and smashed my left foot. So I've got an ankle fusion on my left ankle, which means that running is not a tremendous amount of fun.
Right.
Was that a drop, like you fell, obviously?
I had a proper whipper from about sort of 40 feet up.
Right.
And I'm very, very lucky to be here at all, really. But that sort of brought an end to my esteemed playing career.
What position were you? What were the best days of your playing career?
The best days of my playing career were probably the year 2000 for Marlow, when we had a really, really good season. We won the County Cup. We got promotion. I think we played off for promotion, and just with a really, really nice bunch of guys, and we had a really good time. And I'm now back at Marlow coaching my 3 little ones
Brilliant.
who play in the minis there on a Sunday morning, which is just amazing.
Good for the soul. What position were you? What kind of a player were you? You come across as very level, very easygoing. Were you completely the opposite in the
I
white
was
lines?
completely the opposite. Yeah. I was an open side, and
in the corner of the room, smelling salt.
Yeah, exactly.
I was absolutely triple threat in that I couldn't pass, tackle, or kick the ball.
It's a bit like another open side, not too far away. Or actually, you were 6.5.
And I ran like both my ankles were fused anyway.
Yeah, what fun. And you're now involved, I mean, you're getting the sleeves rolled up every Sunday morning. Do you find that quite life-affirming in many ways?
I do. I kind of, to begin with, I basically decided that I was going to start coaching to prevent my children from just biting everybody else's children. But after 3 or 4 weeks, I just got properly invested in it. It is amazing seeing how transformational it is for youngsters. And of all the things that we've done with our kids, rugby is the only thing that we've stuck with. And I think that, they actually really genuinely look forward to getting out on a Sunday morning and going running around and getting dirty. And it's brilliant.
Do you ever get abuse from parents? What the fuck do you know about rugby, mate? Stick to lines, you dickhead.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
That sums it up. And the kids too, as well,
Really?
which, considering they're 5 and 6 years old, is pokey.
In Marlow, yeah.
Tell me about, as a fan, so you were a Wasps fan as a result of playing for
I
having that
was,
connection?
yeah. So I always kind of followed Wasps, and then they moved out to Wickham, which is just down the road from me. So I used to go down quite regularly, and it was I then had an extra connection as well in that the club physio was a friend of a friend, and I would get treatment from. So I was
Which physio was
all the
that?
time. Doug, do you remember Doug?
Yeah, I remember Doug. Good old Doug. He was a nice guy, Doug. Why are you laughing? It's not I made it up. I know Doug.
Right, Doug who?
Yeah, Doug. I can't remember his surname. But I do know Doug, yeah.
Right.
Good old me and Doug.
So you would go in to Wasps to get... Was this post the
would.
fall? No.
What's that, sorry?
Was this post your back injury or not?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was after I'd had my climbing fall, and I can't even remember how I was passed on to Doug, but, somehow, and I'm sure that this should not have been happening because I was being treated, on the couch? On the couch, like with Josh Lucy being treated alongside me, post-training, when I'm sure I shouldn't have been there. But, it's quite a kind of nice little...
Take it if you can.
Doug got fired actually for doing extracurricular work.
Off the back of it. Tell me about your memories of watching rugby growing up. Who were the team that you were sort of inspired by as a youngster? Would it have been Carling's lot? Was it pre-Carling?
Yeah, it would have been very much so. Yeah, I didn't obviously get a chance to go very much. I mean, tickets for 5 Nations as were really, really hard to come by. But I went a couple of times with my dad, and it was always an incredibly special thing. You would work up to it for weeks in advance, knowing that we were going to go to the rugby. Went to the cup final a few times as well, which was super exciting. Went to Murrayfield to the first ever Sevens, watching England win
in '93
in Scotland. Which went down really,
God, that makes
really
you a
well
true
with
fan.
home supporters.
That was Andy Harriman's.
Delalio, wasn't it?
Delalio, Dawson. Yeah, that's a good quiz
Did you
question.
turn up I can imagine you had like a rat in your pocket and a frog in a matchbox. And stuff like that, no?
Awkward questions to be asked when I got frisked at the...
Did you ever like that?
Don't
Were you
join
like
that pocket.
Would you ever like that?
no,
Really?
absolutely, yeah.
Because you sort of painted the picture of you sort of whimsically running through the woods, collecting butterflies and, things when no one else is around. I just want to be free. Why can't they accept me? And you're like, pockets full of tarantulas and stuff. I imagine, did you just go over with like a bug or something?
There
like a
were-
cricket in a
The
box.
cat from Fantastic Beasts.
There
He
was-
like-
there were definitely-
exactly. That's what I imagine you to be like.
Yeah.
Exactly like that, with a suitcase with like a whale in it or something. It'd have to be a magical one, obviously. But no, were you like that ever?
There were definitely days when I would wander around with a little corn snake or something in my pocket, which incidentally is exactly what my kid does now.
It's funny that I picked up on that, isn't it? I wouldn't know that. I could just see you like in my mind's eye, like a character, just like you shake someone's hand, a snake comes out. Oh, Steve, we've gone to the rugby. Behave yourself. Sorry, Dad. I'm not putting it back in your pocket and stuff like that.
Will you do anything with your kid? Are you looking at sort of creating content together? Is that a thing?
I really hope so. I mean, a lot of that is going to be dependent on what Helen decides to do, because I think that it kind of needs to be as a family. And if she's rowing, then rowing is 24/7 every week of the year. But I think if she decides to step down and not go for LA, then we'll definitely try and do something as a family.
I'll do it with you if it doesn't work out with her. I'll
Okay,
come do it. We'll just
perfect.
go. I quite like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what the people
Well,
want. But Mummy, are you happy? What?
Here educating me on stuff.
If you can find something poisonous and put it in his pocket pretty quickly, that would be great for the rest of us. Given we've got you on, I'm going to ask quite a grown-up question, which is a rarity for this show, framed around rugby and the environment. Is that something you've put thought into? Has anyone ever sort of, given your love of the game?
Yeah.
The game is more global than ever. We'll have, whatever it is, 40,000 fans going down to Australia for the Lions. We've got a URC competition now that is South African teams flying up on a weekly basis. Is that something you've ever thought about? Is that something someone's ever asked you about? Is that something the game should be considering far more than perhaps it is?
I think the game appears to me to have been putting a reasonable amount of thought into its environmental credentials. I think that sport definitely has a role to play, but there's also a big area of the environmental movement that seems to exist purely to throw a spanner in the works whenever anyone tries to do anything positive. And I think that automatically saying that any sponsor connected with rugby has to be the kind of sponsor that you would not take if you were Greenpeace or WWF, I kind of think is nonsense. I think that sport needs to be able to connect to just about anyone, really. Yeah. And I think that we sometimes, we can have overstated morality when it comes to connection to even petrochemical companies and car companies. I think that we should be open to that, and we should be open to connecting to them. And actually, in top tier conservation, the real movers and shakers are absolutely collaborating with those kind of people all the time. But there are an awful lot of people who seem to exist purely to call out hypocrisy for their own ends. Yeah. Just because it gives you that little jolt of smug of being better than someone else. It's one of the most negative things in conservation is this desperate will to always see yourself as being better than someone else.
Really interesting.
And it holds back the cause of global conservation, more than just about anything else.
So what is the solution to that?
So I think it is inevitable that with a sport like rugby, there's going to be a lot of travel. And I think that you shouldn't shy away from that or say that the travel shouldn't happen. What I think you should do is make a real big noise about the kind of positivity that can result from that. Every single bit of travel I've done for the last 15, 16 years has been offset through purchasing tropical rainforest and retiring it. If World Rugby was to get behind something like that, they could create a vast eco-reserve in the middle of the Amazon, protected for all time, and everything that lives there, tapirs, jaguars, ocelots, protected too, by the sport. And it could be something that all of the spectators and the players could be invested in. And those sorts of offsets are real and meaningful and something that could be incredibly positive. So don't say stop the flying, don't say stop the travel, say make sure that in doing it you're realizing the carbon that's being created and you meaningfully offset it.
So who, if anyone, is doing that the best within the walls of sport at the moment?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, so I'm lucky enough to work for a charity called the World Land Trust, and that's exactly what we do. And we, specialise in offsetting for exact amounts of carbon that have been created by flying, by other elements of just normally running a business, which is a carbon costly thing. And you need to make sure that you're doing it right, and you're actually, if you're going to buy a massive forest, that it's going back to local stewardship or it's being sequestered to an existing national park or something else like that. But I don't see any reason why rugby shouldn't do that and do it really well.
And it could lead the way, therefore. I mean, going back to it's not like the LTA or the Olympic Committee or anyone is actually doing this actively now, or are there organisations within
they are,
football and cricket
and
that
likewise are copping massive flack for it. The Olympics got so much grief for connecting to Toyota, and I'm kind of like, the Olympics is not the World Wildlife Fund. It's not Greenpeace. They don't have to have connections that have a zero carbon footprint. That is not a part of their remit. And by connecting to an organisation like Toyota, they have the opportunity to encourage that organisation to do better. So to be a positive part of the conversation. Saying you're just going to shut out every single industry that has a big carbon footprint is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Do you get people who come up and want you to reaffirm their bias like that? They come up to you, go, oh, God, and expecting you to go, I agree with you, let's burn it all down, let's stop it. And you suddenly go, which is a very level-headed, commonsensical response, like you said. Do you get surprised? Do people go, oh, I didn't realise you're one of them? See?
I think that people would have been surprised kind of like 5 or 6 years ago, but I tend to be relatively outspoken about how I feel about conservation. You know, I've travelled my whole life, and I have been flying since I was a kid. It would be preposterous for me to tell people to stop flying. It's been, you know, all of the great experiences of my life have been through travel. It's something I want to encourage people to be able to do. And a lot of the things I do, you know, are carbon costly, but I recognise that, and I do things to try and set it right. And, you know, for so much of my life, every single time I've tried to talk about anything in the environment, there were people who stand up and go, oh, yeah, but you fly all the time. And
the best thing is, without engaging with that, you're never going to get to cleaner ways of travelling, flying, whatever, because you need to work with all the people invested. It's like people who think that you can just turn off oil. You can't just turn off oil. It's going to take time. But without working with them, most of those companies want to be producing the energy further down the line. You've just got to find a way to work in there and get in there quicker, don't you?
Some really interesting reports, actually. I'll just throw this out. We'd love to get your reactions. So there was a report in The Diplomat which touched on the fact that the 3 Pacific Island nations have a combined population of 1.5 million. They provide a quarter of all professional rugby players. But if the sea level rises continue to double and high tide flooding becomes 300 to 900% more frequent compared to 50 years ago, it's only a matter of time before Fijians, Tongans and Samoans have to abandon the low-lying areas of their ancestral homes. It's the kind of thing where if you do talk about it, people will poo-poo, and if you don't talk about it, you're ignoring some pretty alarming statistics. In 2022, World Rugby launched its first sustainability strategy. They plan to reach net zero emissions by 2040. But I'll go on to say that World Rugby says it's embedding sustainability in everything it does. It's laid out 3 key areas: climate action, circular economy, and natural environment protection. Although apparently during the 2023 World Cup, the total carbon footprint tallies 830,000 tonnes of CO2, and Greenpeace had a bit of a pop at Rugby World Cup's organising committee as a result. I mean, I'm skipping through it, but it feels like the conversation is becoming ever more prominent around sport and the environment.
It's really interesting what you're saying about about Tonga and Fiji, and you know, if you look at low-lying island chains in the middle of the Pacific, the middle of the Indian Ocean, climate change is not something that is going to happen off in the future. It is a very pressing concern here and now, and it is one of the foremost concerns for people in exactly those kinds of places. And there are a lot of very prominent athletes that have come from those nations and are very, very invested in the future of their own, you know, their own home nation. So yeah, they'd be very, very good people to, as you say, really, to be a voice, to be a voice speaking out for quite how prescient the problems are.
If people listen to this and think, actually, do you know what, I want to do something, where would you send them?
I'd send them to the World Land Trust. Absolutely, 100%. So I actually have had for about the last 5 or 6 years a fund that I've been running with them, which we call Operation Ocelot, where effectively any school or rugby club or scout group can measure out the size of their playing fields, and they can buy for pretty reasonable amount of money the equivalent amount of rainforest, usually in Central America or South America.
Can we buy some GBR rainforest?
I was about to say, I think we should commit to that off the back of this.
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest, the studio is like a tree, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, we went to the World Cup.
Let's not get over carried away, because he'll see profits. He's on a commission. But
I think we should. I think we should commit to that.
I would do that. GBR rainforest. Yeah. But when it fucking kicks off, I want to come back and see my tree. I want to sleep under the tree. Do you know what I mean?
I've been lucky enough to do that in one of the reserves that we bought in Borneo, and it was one of the most sweet experiences of my life. To go back to a little piece of rainforest that Helen and I fundraised for and bought, and walk through it, and you know, see the orangutans, see the animals that we've given a home through our fundraising. And that is something that rugby players and supporters and travellers and you guys could absolutely be a part of.
We live in a world now where every single article in every single newspaper is doom and gloom. Are there genuine positive stories around reforestation and the environment, or is it all 100% sliding in the wrong direction?
And not only that, but particularly for me, you know, while there are still fish in the sea and while there are still rainforest trees, it is an absolute duty for us to find those positives, because there is nothing that switches people off more than doom. And particularly young people. You know, I work a lot with kids and with families, and if you can give them a sense that there is something they personally can do to make the world a better place, and they become empowered, then they're an absolute force of nature. Whereas if you convince them that it's all screwed and all done and dusted and there's nothing they can do, then they'll just switch off and go on to a different topic. So finding the positives, finding the hope is one of the key things in what I do.
Really interesting, and I really hope there'll be one or two people, and one at a time. There'll be one or two people who listen, who visit the web. What is the website for?
Worldlandtrust.org.uk.
Brilliant. I hope there's one or two people that go there.
We could
sign
actually
up
use
and
the
make a
Black Eye
difference.
money for the fund.
Well, there's worse things we could put towards. Can we finish with the ridiculous?
Yes.
Okay. If the lads were animals, what would they be?
Okay, you promise you're not going to take offence at anything?
No, mate, well,
I
listen,
might, but
okay,
the other two won't. Okay.
What makes you in any possible sense think I'm going to take offence to anything?
So I've gone for 3 primates.
Perfect. Yeah.
And that all because I kind of like the look of them. So Alex, I've gone for the Sulawesi crested macaque.
I saw one.
Oh!
I'll take that, actually. I think that's got a bit of a
the
similar
same.
long face.
It's the quiff.
Not terribly
it's the
happy.
hair.
I like it. There are some that you can see where it's properly curled over quiff at the top. It's nice.
What are the hallmarks of a Sulawesi
They
macaque?
are endemic to a small island in Indonesia.
I would love to be on that island.
It's really, really special. They're very intelligent, very social.
You're a great man, Steve. You're
And
welcome anytime.
They quite can get flustered easily.
Do they come up with a lot of ideas?
Yeah.
And then very badly go, everything's going wrong.
Yeah.
So they go, I'm just having the worst possible day. Everything's going to fail. I've got a great idea.
Right. I'm very pleased with that. Thank you very much indeed.
Can
I'll
someone
take it.
film that to me?
James is going to be significantly less pleased
Right.
with the Yunnan snub-nosed monkey.
What the hell? Look at I can't even do it. Look at them. Look at them.
Blue balls. You painted your balls blue, if not your roof.
That, honestly, I
No global warming coming from your genitalia.
genuinely, if you walk down in Soho, you'll see quite a few people that look just like that. They've had the lips done, they've got the face pinned, and the nuts on it. Fucking hell.
What are the hallmarks
Steve,
of...
what in God's name?
The bright blue scrotum, apart from
What is that, though? It's the mouth. I don't have a lot of work. Honestly. I look like...
That's your new lid, which you've got.
I look like an elderly queen. I can't like that. Isn't it all up rugby? Oh, look at my balls. I've stood at my balls again. Oh,
Very
can't
clean
get out
end.
yet.
What are the hallmarks of this? Irrational...
They have a tendency to live in very cold places in China, very social.
Frozen out of society is
spend
what
a
we're
lot,
saying.
a
Yeah.
lot of time
Do they walk
huddling
poodles?
together for warmth.
Right. Together for one.
Good.
Oh, look
Hask,
at it.
I
Space
like it.
It looks like, honestly, it looks like I've had a cocaine problem. My nose has fallen off. My lips done.
But your new lid's looking
My
strong.
lips done. Looks like I smoked 20 Marlboro Light a day, and I go, oh, you wouldn't understand back in the day. Oh, what's that club in New York was called? Was it
Studio
54? Studio 54. Those are the dates, darling. Oh, more cocaine on my steps to my balls again. That's what I look like. No, fuck, Steve. I liked you before that, right?
It gets worse.
And last but not least...
amazing.
Because for Mike, I've gone for a proboscis monkey.
Oh! Yes!
You absolutely nailed all 3.
Oh!
What is happening there?
I think
So
Prince Andrew's done what? What?
Oh, how we laugh.
Oh,
What are the hallmarks of the proboscis monkey, other than the
these
obvious?
are from they're from Borneo. The male and the female are very different. The female's got this tiny little retrousse snub nose.
Retrousse,
and they
what a
spend
word.
lot of time down at the water's edge. In fact, they're very good swimmers as well.
Wow. Tins, you happy with that?
yeah, amazing.
Boy, the schnoz on it there. You dream of a nose that straight, wouldn't you?
I mean, I reckon I wouldn't have my breathing issues with a nose like that, would I?
That
with
I reckon he's a
editing.
silent breather. What's he saying? I've got a Can we put there's got to be a caption on that? Can we put that up on the internet, please, and go, what's Mike seeing? What's Mike seeing?
Yeah.
Hask's done what? They
Absolutely
found the 20 million.
Cayman Islands a coin. Thank you very much indeed. No offence taken.
Probably came in where everyone liked him. He's going, everyone hating him.
Yeah.
Well done.
You definitely got off
I'm
best
happy with
from
that. I'm happy with that. You know where your
But
bread
you
is
know he's the
buttered.
most sensitive, aren't you? You know that, yeah.
Can't cry on camera. Couple of
got
others.
popped to Soho.
Couple of others. Who would win in a fight, Hask or a red kangaroo?
Oh wow, they're brutal when they're fighting. They could potentially eviscerate you with a kick from the hind legs.
Right.
But
I'd see it coming. Parry, fuck off. Right at the top.
Your movability on your stable ankles. Wait, Don't kick yet.
Don't kick. We had I was watching Jurassic Park last night, and Bodhi never. I don't know whether that was good parenting or not. I said to Chloe,
Sorry, but Bodhi's
Age 3 with the T-Rex.
20
I
months
said
old.
to, I did say to Chloe, I just said I'm not sure, but there was a bit with a T-Rex, and I said, look, cuddle me, I'll get. And she started screaming. I said, no, Bodhi, it's fine. I said, I'll fight the T-Rex. She goes, you fight T-Rex. So, yeah, he goes, I fight the T-Rex. I was like, yeah. So then Mummy and I had to fight the T-Rex. But yeah, I think she'd have nightmares.
What's
but
next? Schindler's List followed by Carly Turns Away. Really, I'm bringing you on quickly.
We've got Scarface on tonight.
Okay,
No,
what happened to Peppa Pig? Steve's got a great collection to tuck into.
She wanted to. We showed her
Could I
sometimes.
suggest Leo is a nice way to go?
I did say that. I honestly did say to her, I'm just not sure this is the right thing to do.
The Daily Mail are going to have this up in the headline.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't me. It was Chloe. But and I was there, and I fought the T-Rex. I just meant that she would
don't
find.
have that conversation.
Okay.
From
Who would
someone
win?
who's had many
I'd
children.
kick the fuck out of the kangaroo.
You'd be okay. Steve, would you rather fight a gorilla or the Springbok bomb squad?
Ooh, I definitely wouldn't want to fight a gorilla. They have supernatural strength. I mean, they're pretty big and muscular anyway, but they can do things that they just should not be able to do. There was a guide in the Ruwenzori. We were working with gorillas probably about 15, 20 years ago, and he had a silverback that had taken exception to him, and he'd done all the wrong things. He'd run away, and the gorilla just reached in and took a hand of his calf and just took it off his leg, just took his calf muscle off his leg in its hand.
Wow.
They have a freakish strength. All of those great apes. Chimpanzees, they're not that big, but you would not want to be anywhere near one if it was in a bad mood.
That is mind blowing because they don't have sharp fingernails.
No.
That's grip strength.
Did you see that one with that?
Yeah, that's the England rugby team. We keep putting on their thing about them squeezing.
I've seen chimps up in the treetops hunting red colobus monkeys, and that is the most unsettling. That's one of the few things that we've filmed on our kids series and not been able to show a single frame of, and not even show any of the sound from, because it is so unsettling. It's just primeval, primordial, and you see you see these vaguely human-looking animals just taking a monkey and pulling it apart like it's I don't know, like it's a
Bodhi can enjoy that next Tuesday. That's
That's
quite a time of
Yeah, send me the link.
Yeah.
In which species are females deadlier than the males?
Quite a few actually. Yeah. So matriarchies are relatively common. Things like leopard seals, where the females are bigger and much more intimidating. Female spotted hyenas actually have a penis and are
Very 2024.
Yes, yeah. And
If you look at the right place, you can find them in London. That's what I call Quiet Tuesday night. But anyway,
they're a good deal bigger and stronger and more powerful. The most powerful matriarchy in nature is probably the orca or killer whale. And females are utterly dominant, even though the males are bigger. The females are more intelligent, more communicative, and they kind of orchestrate everything that happens in the pod. So they are absolutely the boss.
I thought quite spiders, don't they? The women eat the men a lot.
There are some kinds of spiders, some kinds of praying mantises where the female will eat the male during copulation, and it's almost like he's offering a source of protein to the female as she's about to breed.
That.
Yeah.
Finally get your end away. The one time you do it, she starts eating you. You turn around, she's eating your arm off. You're like, fuck's sake.
No, don't eat
Don't
that.
stop. Don't stop harder.
Try that. Last but not least, can I give you a rugby player and you give me the first animal that comes into your mind?
Yes.
If you say pass, don't worry, we'll go with it. Antoine Dupont.
Oh, that's a good one. I would probably go for something like a wolverine or a honey badger. So something that is able to punch way bigger than its own size and weight. So wolverine have been seen taking down adult moose, and a wolverine's not much bigger than our badger that we have here. So
Wow.
Moose,
But it's got
absolutely
them metal
huge.
claws, though, wouldn't it?
That helps, obviously.
Yeah,
Adamantium skeleton, yeah.
Dan Carter.
Oh, so something with brains, I guess a bottlenose dolphin. So we tend to think of the great apes as being the most intelligent animal other than us, but actually the members of the dolphin family, like the orca, like the bottlenose dolphin, have a bigger and more potent processing power brain than any of them do.
Sorry, let's just forget. You got a wolverine
Yeah.
and a bottlenose dolphin.
How
You
many
got a cocknose and an
And a
Asian
transvestite monkey.
cock-nosed monkey.
a former
slightly
producer on Broadway.
A slightly confused monkey.
A jaded Broadway producer.
Danny LaRue.
You can't roll your eyes. It's fucking true.
Martin Johnson.
Oh, that's a good one. Let's go for a musk oxen. Have you seen a musk oxen?
No.
So it's like a bit like a bison. They're found up in the Arctic, and at the right time of year, at the rut, the males will just like charge into each other, head to head, clatter at about 30 miles an hour, and you can hear the sound for
That's how Jono
miles
makes
in
love.
the direction.
Leicester, isn't it?
So they're probably properly messed up. So yeah, I'm gonna go musk oxen.
Can I just
I
say
like
to you, there was something I take Bodhi to the zoo a lot in when she's
Put her
not,
in the gorilla cage. Get
when
on
she's
with
not
that.
watching extreme violence and cage fighting. There's an animal at London Zoo that I didn't believe existed. I'd never seen it, and it's next to the. I don't know if you're familiar. There's the giraffe, the zebra, and there's this thing that is a combination of a zebra,
A carpy?
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah,
like
that's
like
one of those weirdos.
It's honest that when you look at it, you're like, I did not know that existed. It looks like 5 animals just bolted together, and it's real. It's like it's something that you would see out of Mystical Beasts. You're like, I don't understand. It's got like 3 different colourways on it. Like top coat's different, the bottom coat. It's mental. It's like a giant fucking horse thing. It's mental, isn't it?
They are. I mean, I've not seen one at London Zoo. They're almost extinct in the wild. They're only found in Congo and a couple of other countries around
How
that.
do you spell it? Can we get one up and see what it
It's
looks like?
Okapi.
Okay, it is. That's exactly what it is. OKAPI. It's like a hell creature. Imagine walking
they're
around
very,
and not
very
knowing
strange.
that. Like, imagine your education.
It's a
system.
giraffe's head on a horse's sort of neck into a zebra's
And like
leg.
giraffes, they have got the incredible long extendable tongue, which they use for feeding.
But just imagine not knowing, like, not being that bright, knowing like elephants and rhinos and walking and seeing that.
Yeah.
It would just be like, oh my god. You can see how like mystical creatures come up. If you had limited worldview and then suddenly got seen something, you'd be like, that's a monster, that's a demon monster. That looks like the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Stars and Stripes. Wilco would be a.
I'm going to go for one of the baboon species. So let's go for something like a gelada baboon. So they're pretty muscular, pretty tough. They work together as a unit. They will work to frighten away other predators together as a group. They are surprisingly savage. In fact, more savage than you would think at first glance.
And last but not least, Faf de Klerk.
Faf de Klerk. Oh, it's got to be it's got to be something like a honey badger, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it is going to be a honey badger.
It's
So
gonna be a honey badger.
honey badgers are in the Guinness Book of Animal Records as being the most ferocious animal in the world, and they have been seen frightening lions off their kill. So a honey badger again is about that sort of size, and they will frighten lions, plural, off a kill the lions have made just by pure attitude, just by running in this snarling, whirling dervish of teeth and claws, and the lions go whoa, and the honey badger
And
takes
great
their
hair
food.
as well.
And great hair.
I thought
Great
it was
hair.
like,
Look at that.
like monkeys with that blonde plumage that look a bit crazy, a bit like Faf de Klerk, maybe.
Brilliant. So you're off on tour. Where can people find details? I presume it's a sellout already, is it? But if there are
Pretty
tickets
much,
still,
yeah.
is it? Are
There's,
the last couple of tickets going?
There are
They go
still
to-
tickets at Wolverhampton, Portsmouth, Inverness, I think. And my website, stevebackshall.com.
Brilliant. What a show.
Love it.
We do love people that love the game and provide different
we
points of
barely
view
talked
to
about
I know,
rugby
But
at all.
that's
excellent.
It's
showing it on a
fantastic.
week-to-week
I know.
basis. I mean, honestly, it's about as giddy and as excited as you
I
two
wanted
have
to
been
drop
in the
rugby off the title, but we'd have to get rid of Tins, so we just couldn't have good and bad.
studio. What a man.
I think great, amazing. I think
Thank you all
it's-
very much.
I think it's fascinating as well, kind of the legacy, and also how important it is now these days to be able to make it relatable, to make it understanding, to capture children's imagination in nature, because especially with people glued to the screens and computers, and we're forgetting a large portion of what makes this world fantastic. And if you ever step outside of that and look into it, and as I said, it's got to be there to be saved, because when it's gone, it will be sorely missed. And I think there's a lot that can be done. So I think we should definitely try to get a GBR tree.
I think it's a very good idea. Do you want to do the honours with Black Eye? Everybody that comes on, most people need a drink after they've been on, so we always like to give someone a little thank you.
There you go.
Steve, it's a little something from us to
Thank you so much. That's very, very kind.
That is our gin that's trying to raise money for injured rugby players. So
But we have got a
enjoy
pot
it.
of money that we could actually use
We've got
to
20 grand in there now.
Yeah,
We need
to
to
maybe
work
buy a
out where to
tree.
put it. Yeah,
Buy a bit.
Look after a player or two.
That'll
first.
buy a lot
Yeah.
more than a tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Well, let's not get carried away. I mean, I'm writing checks that I literally can't cash. I'm not in charge of any of the money. Funny enough,
Yeah.
There was a mistake once when the float went missing and there was all fingers pointed, so I'm not allowed to have it anymore.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been really, really entertaining.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Good luck with all that's to come. That is a wrap for this week's episode. Thank you for tuning in to The Good, The Bad and The Rugby in partnership with Continental Tyres, our go-to for premium tyres, whether on the rugby field or the road. Safety always comes first. And also, unlike this show, Continental Tyres are award-winning. Good for them. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review and follow us on social media for the latest rugby updates. We are a Folding Pocket production. This episode were produced by Tom Edwards. See you again soon. Bye for now.